you all please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Moines County Board of Supervisors meeting this Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. I'm Shane McCampbell. The gentleman to my left is Thomas Broker, and the gentleman to my right, which would be your left, is James Carey. Do we have any changes to the tentative agenda?
I have none.
I do. I'd like to remove A, the contractor hasn't gotten his part of the equation done with, and so once he's done, we'll probably just put it on for next Tuesday again, but it's it will be coming your direction, it's just not ready yet.
Okay. Any other changes? Okay. Meet with department heads and elected officials. Let's start. Go to the back. Angie Vaughn, keep us safe.
Good morning. I really have nothing new to report at this time. However, if Bob is listening, we do expect oranges when he returns.
You hear that, Bob?
He heard it. All right. Next we have Natalie Stepner, Recorder's Office.
Good morning. Just attended ISAC last week and also an Iowa Land Records conference, looking at updating some recorders policies, and otherwise just business as usual.
Rodney Bleasner, Maintenance, welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you. It's good to be back. Just kind of playing catch up this week from being gone last week. Got quite a few things going on. We got a agenda item this morning. Once again, I got to thank Brian, Devin, and Becky for all their help on the project and helping with that, and also Sarah with the bid opening and some of that stuff. So I really appreciate their help on this project. Also will note, as everybody's probably already seen on Columbia Street out here, the city's closed off the parking spots just on the south side there, the parking lot. Those spots are going to be closed from March 13th to April 14th. And also, I believe they've closed down 3rd Street just for this week. Those spots being closed, I don't know when the parking lot project's going to start, but between their construction and the Tiger Grant construction and stuff we got going on, it's going to be kind of hectic down here in the next month or two. So everybody will just kind of have to kind of be aware, kind of keep your head on the swivel. There'll be a lot of construction vehicles around around the area, so it's going to be congested for a little bit, but we'll get through it. Other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Janelle Nellie Lundquist.
Good morning. We are busy with tax collections, and motor vehicles just as busy, so nothing new to report.
Lisa Schaefer, County Attorney.
Just business as usual as our business is.
That was nice.
I think the sheriff's taking care of you there, keep you busy, so that's a good thing.
It's a team effort.
It's a team effort.
Sheriff, since it's a team effort, share with us, do you have anything?
We also have a lot going on. No major updates for the board today. Our jail population is 87. 12 are out of county. Kind of a happier number for us, and we have several going out. We have 3 going to the halfway house, 2 going to the halfway house, 5 more that are waiting, and then 2 that are going to Oakdale this week yet, and 1 going out for treatment. So hopefully see those numbers come down and not backfill on the other side, but we'll see how the week goes.
Colin Gerst, IT.
I had some good sessions at ISAC there last week, but other than that, just kind of keeping busy like usual.
Zach James, Jared Lassiter, you guys got anything to say land use?
A quick treasury report. I did pay my property taxes a few minutes ago, so I'm good to go.
We're all proud of you. Yeah. The check hasn't cleared yet.
I promise it's gonna go through. No, other than that, things are going well. We've got a larger subdivision that's kind of in the works. We got a final plat. We'll be meeting with the zoning commission here in a couple weeks. We've got a special use permit that we're working through, and then we've got a work session afterwards here, talk about Wayne and Settler. Keep that moving along, so. Other than that.
We appreciate that. Thank you much, Batman. Chris Lee, Conservation.
Good morning. We have, so Spring Bearing down on us, April 1st is kind of our unofficial opening day of parks. We're gonna have an open house up at Big Hollow on the 30th. That's going to be cool. It'll be at 5 o'clock p.m. over at the Hickory Shelter. It's Thursday, not April 30th, sorry, Thursday, March 30th. And we'll take people around and kind of show them the projects we've been doing up there, where the new campsites are gonna go, where the new ponds are gonna go. We'll have a dinner. We'll get a local organization sponsor that. And we'll also have, we just met with our new, not ours, but the Soil and Water District's watershed coordinator for the Big Hollow watershed. Just met with him yesterday. So he's about a week into the job now. He'll be at this event to talk about conservation practices that can be done in the watershed, cost share opportunities for landowners inside the watershed, things like that. So just kind of a kickoff to spring. So anybody that would like to come to that, 5 o'clock p.m. at Big Hollow on the 30th. We also have a field tour with supervisors and our board next Wednesday on the 22nd. Largely do the same thing, look at those projects, talk about that stuff. So other than that, we're just kind of scrambling to try to get all the trees down by April 1st when the bat protection season starts. We're pretty close. And so just we'll get that done and we're going to start getting the parks ready to open up. We've already had a lot of people asking when we're going to turn the water on so they can start camping. So it's still a bit chilly in my book, but when we get sustained weather above freezing at night, we'll turn the water on, certainly a Big Hollow. We are still looking for camp hosts up at the 4th pumping station and possibly part-time down at Welter. We've got one couple that's interested in part-time camp hosting down there, but if anybody would like to camp host at that or the 4th pumping station, we'd certainly entertain the application.
How many sites are up at pumping station?
Yes, sir.
22 electric ones, I think, and then about a dozen non-electric. So, and those are, so they're shared pedestals, so it's 2 sites per pedestal. So that's kind of how that's ranked.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Satisfied? I said you satisfied?
Yeah.
Cheryl McBase, wearing 2 hats today, so talk to us from the auditor's office or from finance.
And had a good conference at ISAC, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of legislation that's important to counties and cities, and the office is busy, so.
We appreciate your hard work. Brian Carter, County Engineer.
Good morning. I have a lot of stuff going on. Went to ISAC like everybody else. I went up a day early, had some legislative stuff to do that day, and spoke to quite a few legislators. Boy, there's all sorts of stuff flying around up there, and not all of it is good for counties, or cities for that matter, in my opinion, I guess I'll say. So we'll see what the House and Senate come up with. Certainly gave opinions of issues, and felt like maybe the House was a bit more receptive than the Senate a little bit, just from some of the topics we've talked about. But it was worth getting to talk to them up there, and so that was, I think, well worthwhile. As far as the bridge project up on 99, that's making good progress. They are setting deck steel this week. Should wrap that up, and if the weather squares away, there's an outside chance they could pour some concrete on, maybe pour the deck next week. Contractor definitely wants to keep things moving and get out, so we'll just have to see what the weather does and progress and all that, but it is moving along good. We did bid a shop, one of our motor grader shops out for replacement yesterday. So just I'd let you know, we did have one bidder, but it was a good competitive bid for within the range of what I won't say we did a full estimate, but just had a ballpark, and I'd say it came in on the middle to lower end of what we were hoping for. So I won't complain about that. It was Spectra, who was the same contractor on our Iowa City shop also. So we were happy with how that went. That came in at just under $220,000. So, and that's for the shop down south on Hunt Road. So just thought I'd let you know about that. Also, they're itching to get started, so the guys are working on clearing stuff out. We'll try to get utilities disconnected early next week, and they're looking at maybe starting demo next week. Shop's got to be, this is probably the most expensive of the three we have left, because it's got to be demoed first before they can do anything, because the new shop's going back in the same location as the old shop. So, and we're still hauling rock as the weather allows, and I'm on all three of your calendars for March 28th for a project tour. So every opportunity I have, I mention that. So otherwise, plenty of stuff going on, but that's what I have for you right now.
What, you're not still talking? Waiting on my stamps.
Sorry
Go
about
ahead,
that.
Brian. This guy's never been done soon.
And Rodney's got an item too, but that contractor wants to get rolling also, so he's not wrong. It's gonna get real busy and parking's gonna get real thin. So.
Alrighty then. Okay, well, let's move right along then. Gentlemen, did any of you receive any correspondence?
I did not.
No. Okay, we'll move on to discussion and vote. 5A has been removed. Which brings us to 5B, which is approval of contracts for the courthouse parking lot paving. This agreement made and entered into by the Des Moines County, Iowa Courthouse, hereinafter referred to as County, and Jones Contracting Corporation, West Point, Iowa, hereinafter referred to as the contractor. The dollar amount is $123,777. Anything you want to say on that?
Just say, once again, I thank Brian. Brian's here for doing the bid opening last week. We had two bids. One from MJ Daily Construction for $136,770, and this one from Jones Contracting, $123,777. We would just recommend for approval for the Jones Contracting, and also got a meeting scheduled, I believe, Monday, so we don't really have a time frame yet, but like Brian said, I think they're ready to get going, and as long as the weather's staying nice, everything should go hopefully quickly, but see how it goes.
Motion to approve the contract with Jones.
Second.
Moved in second. Cheryl Marie?
Tom Broker?
Yeah.
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Shane McCampbell?
Yes. Yeah, I didn't see what that is. I'll have to figure it out. Is that me right here?
That's you. That's in case, in case something comes up, then you pay the extra.
I appreciate that, James. You're a real sweetheart, man, loved by all your peers. All right. Next we have 5C is the Harvest View Annual Liquor License Renewal. Sheriff, any problems with this?
No concerns with either of the locations with the liquor license renewals.
The sheriff is here.
Or the liquor.
I got a motion from James.
Second.
Moved in second. Cheryl?
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Shane McCampbell?
Yes. Next, we have 5D, Fat Annie's Augusta Tap Annual Liquor License Renewal. Sheriff, any problems?
No concerns there.
Can I get a motion to approve?
First, I'd like to remind the chair that last year on the conservation tour, we stopped at Fat Annie's for a tenderloin toward the end of the tour, and the chairman had never been to Fat Annie's. So there was a young lady there that, certainly not overweight, was taking orders. Shane said, "Are you Annie?" if looks could kill,
And you didn't have your food yet?
no. I thought that was a bold assumption as well.
That is a risky game.
There's always a lesson to be learned. You never talk smack before you get served your food.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Moved in second. Cheryl?
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes, please.
I almost forgot about that, Tom.
I was just reminded when I read that.
Besides, we put in a good word for their tenderloins too, they're excellent.
It's like going into World Heralds, man. He's not really a weird guy. I just haven't been able to prove that. Okay, moving on to personnel actions. We have 2 for the Sheriff's Department. The first is for Wayne Kenneth Smith, or Kenneth Wayne Smith. Bless your heart. It's for a salary adjustment. Actually, it's for retirement. He's retired from the jail.
Rehire.
Rehire.
Sorry if we didn't have that on there.
Okay. No, it's, I just read that wrong. Okay. He's a rehire. He retired from the jail. Here, give me your glasses, Judy. God bless you. He's gonna talk about me like a dog when this meeting is done. His new rate is at $19.95, and his effective date is March 6th, 2023. I'm gonna just do these both. The other one is for Brett Allen Grimshaw. He's a rehire. He's retired from the sheriff's office, but he's a rehire at $19.95 an hour, starting March 6th, 2023. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Ms. Sherrill?
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes.
Really lucky to have Brent back on.
Pretty lucky to have both. So Wayne Smith worked in the jail for over 30 years, and
Yeah.
everybody's familiar with Brett. He's pretty memorable. He worked at the sheriff's office for over 30 years. They're going to come back on and do some transports, and Wayne's going to do some courthouse security for us as well. You'll probably see Brett around the courthouse from time to time when I can talk him into it to help with some of the security and the transporting during trials. So we're very happy to have both to help fill some voids in our transports.
I told Brett he was coming back. He says, no. He says, the only thing I'd come back to is maybe cutting some grass or something like that. I said, oh no, cutting grass is exciting enough. You'll be back, friend. Yeah, we welcome them both back. They've both been hit for Moines County, so good deal. All right, brings us to minutes for our regular meeting on March 7th, 2023. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Ms. Sherrill?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes. We're winding down to the end of this meeting. I know it's been a long one, guys. I appreciate you guys waiting. Bless your hearts. Do we have any other business, gentlemen?
I have none.
And future agenda items? Committee reports. James?
I had a Russ meeting, and things are going real good with Russ. Pump truck's going good, it's paying for itself. And we set the new contract, we reviewed them at the previous meeting, and then we confirmed the new contract for the pay raises, or not the pay raises, the water rate wages. They went up probably 2.5% to 3%. Outside of that, everything's okay.
Thank you, James. Thomas?
I attended the SEAL Mental Health and Disability Services Region Board of Governance meeting, and the South Central Mental Health Region has agreed we're going to merge, so we'll have our first joint meeting middle of April. And the rest of the meeting was mostly approving contracts and invoices.
How many counties are gonna,
Well, there's two we don't know about yet,
okay,
but that'll make 12.
that'd be 12. They decided on Ryan, she's gonna run all of them.
I'm sure she will. I suspect, yeah. She's uniquely qualified for that. We're very fortunate to have her.
Thanks.
I just had a youth board meeting, and I guess I'll just say that they're you know, I've got a problem with spending money. I just have to say it. I've got a problem with spending money if there's no proof that it's working. I don't believe that throwing money at something is always the answer, or ever the answer. And I'm just so we had a long meeting, and I guess that's all I got to say. We had a long meeting, and you know, that's just not always the answer. I guess I probably ought to leave it at that. But if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. You know, if it's not helping, I think money can be used for better purposes. I better stop. I'm going to say something, Jim. Stop me now. Stop me, Jim. All right, I'll stop right there. That's all I had. So at this time, we'll give an opportunity for public input. If there's anybody here, we welcome you as a public to come up and have a word or give us some input. If you are not and you're watching online, we encourage you to call us at area code 319-753-8203 extension 4, or you can email us at dmcounty, I always get that wrong, board@dmcounty.com. Let me say that again. You can email us at board@dmcounty.com, or you can call us at 319-753-8203 extension 4. We would love to hear from you. So is there anybody here that has a public comment?
That's B-O-A-R-E-D, not B-O-R-E-D, in case anybody
Man, this guy's good, man. I'm watching you. Anyways, that's B-O-A-R-D.
And somebody asked me that before a couple weeks back.
Yeah, not B-O-R-E-D. We're not bored around here.
Bored. Just email
us. Is there anybody that has a public comment?
Sorry.
Okay, Jimmy, start the clock. And anybody have anything good to say?
I attended one of Collins' sessions up there at ISAC.
I heard the door open, I looked back, I saw you, heard about a minute later, heard it again, and I looked back and Tom's gone.
I didn't last long enough to sit down. They were talking about an issue, they were talking about the implementation of an issue. Yeah. And it was quickly over, still technically over what was available to me, so. Fortunately, you were there.
Tom was looking for one so he could learn how to operate his phone.
I would appreciate Colin Gerst. I strong-armed him. I pulled him out of a meeting and said, "Come with me." But I thought maybe that there might be some. We had some vendors, and some of the vendors I just walked past and grabbed a pad and notebook. But some of them I'm looking to see if they can help us, and I thought maybe that might be a benefit. And I appreciate you taking the time to.
There's always some good. There's always some good vendors up there, honestly, and it's always interesting to hear. You know, different ways of doing stuff. We constantly joke within my ICIT group, there's 99 counties and 99 different ways of doing IT and security, because it seems like every county kind of does different things. So. Sheriff Lori from the paper had a question for you.
What you got?
Said, Sheriff, any updates on the Minneapolis situation yesterday?
Not much more than beyond what was already released. There's the investigation's ongoing, no threat to the public, and we'll be able to release a press release later on today.
I think that was my first email question since I've been chairman. I'm really excited about that. Here you go. Anybody else with Anybody else with a question, we sure would like to hear from you. You're more than welcome to call in. And if you missed the meeting, you can call and leave a message, or you can email us individually or as a board. We don't mind. We don't mind at all.
2 minutes.
2 minutes is up. Okay, this brings us to adjournment. Before we close, Thomas, any final remarks?
Aye.
Aye.
You're not supposed to say that till I ask Jim, Thomas. All right, with an eye, we're out of here, and they just said it. So thank you guys, appreciate it.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
have two work sessions. Our first work session is for regarding downtown Wi-Fi project. So if you could introduce yourself and company represent.
Yeah. So my name is Jordan Fromm. I'm a regional planner with Southeast Iowa Regional Planning. Last year, this is Chad Bird.
Oh, yeah.
See the IT expert?
Nope.
So last year, I was approached by like downtown partners. They had wanted me to apply for some coronavirus grant funds for a downtown Wi-Fi network. I put in that application, we received those funds, so now I'm more in the mobilization step process. So basically this is a free public Wi-Fi network that would be, it would take part from just the downtown central business district, more or less. So currently I've got 5 locations with approval for rooftop access. I had a 6th, and there was some fallout there where they were a little wishy-washy on it, so I decided that I needed to branch out and try to explore other options. So the reason, or kind of one of the basis for why these locations were selected was because they have access to Danville Telecom's fiber network, because we wanted the best possible product for the people of Burlington, for any visitors and tourists that would be coming on and accessing this network in Burlington. So I wanted that fiber network, which the courthouse does have access to a vault nearby, which made it a viable candidate. So basically I'm here today to answer any questions about this network and hopefully get some tentative approval that I can maybe go ahead and consider the courthouse as a location for this downtown Wi-Fi project. So what I would need, this process has an initial site survey, which means I would have a hardware company or an electrician come out, explore the source of power and where a wireless access point can be bracketed. Now this is not some major antenna. It is, it's 13 inches by about 11.5 inches by 9 inches. So it's a small, rectangular box. They've got some, I was looking around, some bracketed IT equipment just in your hallway here. They would be in a very similar, slightly larger, but a very similar setup where it's just mounted up top, and it would kind of blend in. It would, I would need that initial site survey to figure out where they would best position it, and then they would have rooftop access one other time for installation, and then hopefully minimum maintenance, throughout the year. Maybe they would have to get up there 1-2 times a year, I'd hope. Obviously, if it became an issue where people are asking for maintenance, like if they needed rooftop access more than I foresaw, then that's something that we could do about, we could use different locations, or if it became an issue for the courthouse, it's not something that would be hard and fast. I'd say, oh no, we have to have this for years and years of the life of the network. But it's just something that I think would be unique for the city the size of Burlington. It would be a great asset for the community as just kind of amenity for all the things that we have going on downtown. Could I ask if you have any initial feedback, any thoughts, concerns, questions?
Why the courthouse? We've got a lot of tall buildings.
So, we do have a lot of tall buildings. Not every building has access to that Danville vault for the fiber. So I have like F&M Bank is signed on. That's another larger building. But basically I want locations throughout downtown, because these wireless access points, they're going to be throwing the signal about 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet maybe at max, but 1,000 is kind of that range. So I need them kind of dotted. So like I have down Jefferson, I've got Harmony on the south end, and this would be kind of like my northernmost point. And And so that way I've encircled the downtown, and that way it would be for the performance of the network, this would be a well-suited area.
We need those 1,000-foot rings to kind of coincide and intersect each other, and so this is the area we need a place.
Kind of like on a repeater system.
Right. It's kind of, think of it as a, kind of a mesh network, right?
Yeah.
So 5 of them would cover the whole area, but they each cover about 1,000 feet interlapping.
Colin Gerst.
Good.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask them if it could be mounted without going through a roof membrane on the roof or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's been described to me as being bracketed, so I think it would be good bracketed to like a parapet or something. I don't think it would actually have to be, drilled down through the roof
I would be
membrane.
against that, because anytime you go through a membrane or something, you're just opening yourself up a year or two down the road for a leak.
Yeah, no, 100%. I will, certainly relay that as a preference, once we do the site survey, and if that was something that would not be possible, then I would suggest that we don't do it. I mean, obviously, the owners of the building there, those preferences, those concerns, those fears to protect the roof membrane, that's something that I want to prioritize in this.
That would
So
be
is there,
my preference. I don't know about these guys.
well, what if there's some damage that the equipment causes? You have insurance that's covering that, or how does that work?
So this project is a partnership between downtown DPI, Main Street, the city, and Southeast Iowa, but the city is the sponsor for the grant.
Okay.
So you consider it a city project.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But I think the site survey, as Jordan is saying, would determine, okay, is there conduit already running up through the roof that we can fish a line through? Is there some other tower or bracket system up there that we mount to?
And that's what the site deal with.
That's what the site survey would tell us.
We should have had Rodney in here on this, because.
There.
Oh, really?
Found him. We got caught in
I didn't see you there, Rodney.
Hi.
Is there anything already going up there where they can make access?
Well, there is some stuff up there. I mean, I think it could be workable. I don't know what, I think emergency management's got some antenna stuff up there, so I don't know if there's any kind of, I'm not too much into the radio frequency and all that. If there's gonna be some interference with some of that equipment that's currently up there compared to what the Wi-Fi would have, that would probably be my only concern, is if something that way would interfere. Otherwise, I don't think there'd really be an issue of finding a place to mount it, or getting anything to it. We got some spots there where we already have stuff going up through, so I don't think that'd be an issue. I think it's more of if there's gonna be any kind of interference or anything going on with what we currently have.
And I would hope the site survey could dig into that too.
Colin Gerst.
I was gonna add, do you guys know what band that's gonna be on by chance, or channel or anything?
No.
We do have radio equipment up there, but I mean, it shouldn't interfere between that and the Wi-Fi unless it's really old APs, which I wouldn't think it would be. We do have, cables and stuff already ran up that we could use conduits to get up there. The only downside I could see is it is kind of a pain to get up there. I mean, you can get up there, but it's kind of a pain. What was the other question I was gonna have? You kind of answered about the mesh network. I assume this was gonna mesh with other locations.
Yes.
So, you got any idea, just out of curiosity, what the speed and that will be on?
No, and that would be something that, as we get into it, so think of a tourist maybe coming off the riverboat or something and popping up, they bring out their phone, they see this network, they hit on it, and it's gonna propagate a tourism type page where they can download restaurants and attractions and things like that. We don't want people to download movies and sit there for 3 hours and watch whatever. That's not the intent. So we'll be able to throttle speed, bandwidth, but I don't know that we've determined what that is yet.
Do you know what type of antennas, if they're omnidirectional or directional, how those are?
So it's Weingard's supplying the hardware. So they're using their kind of indoor-outdoor Wi-Fi network boosters. The hardware, it's the Explore 2.0 or the Extreme 2.0 from Weingard, and it would be omnidirectional.
I'm not familiar with them, so.
I guess my question for today, are you just asking the supervisors at this point just to have a feasibility study? Is that really your first ask?
Yeah, so I'm hoping to, the nature of these funds were that I have to have this project finalized by July. So it's basically I have to have the project more or less done as far as hiring contractors by sometime in May. So that's kind of, I know I'm coming to you with kind of a quick timeline here. But I'm hoping to have, would be these site surveys, that kind of feasibility study conducted sometime this month, if possible. And so then if it's something where whatever contractor I'm working with comes back and it's a good plan and you all are comfortable with it, then it would be something that sometime in May we would hopefully have this network running throughout downtown.
Just one other question. Go ahead, James.
I don't have a problem with it as long as it doesn't do any damage to the membrane on the roof. That was my main concern. If you guys are paying for everything, you just need a location for it.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, and I guess
no
just to
cost
clarify, our ask today is just, can we get up on the roof and see if it even works?
Yeah.
Right? That would be probably the
Yeah.
first ask.
So I think, I don't have a problem with it myself. I don't know about you guys.
I moved to see internet throughout downtown Burlington, so I've got no problem with that. My only question was, if there was some reason that the courthouse didn't work, was the library, I mean, would that be,
That would be an option too, but that sits lower, right? So we need higher points.
okay. But I've got no problem with the tons.
I have no problem with the feasibility study. I'm anxious to see you get up on the roof though, Jeff.
Yeah. Might not be me, maybe. All right, I don't know.
We'll send Carter up for us.
Yeah. You're not gonna be done by May.
And so we'll be hearing back from you after,
After the site survey.
Yeah. Okay. And who you be working with, would that be with Rodney? Okay.
Just have him give me a call and we'll have to give him access.
Okay, thank you, Rodney.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Stay away from the sharks, man.
Yeah.
Chad,
All right,
then is the city going to be creating some sort of MOU, so everything that you just said that you're responsible for
Right.
is gonna be in writing?
Yeah, we'll have to do that with our other sites and stuff
Okay.
too, so yes, absolutely.
She's the attorney, Chad. She
Yes,
can't help
that's
herself.
right, yeah.
She can't help herself.
I
Bless her
expected
heart.
no less.
Oh, we love it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Chad,
Yes.
come back anytime and visit us.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
I will do.
See ya.
Jim said that, I didn't. So anyways,
Oh,
I'm just playing,
yeah.
Chad. Love you, man.
Have a great day.
Appreciate you. Okay. You guys want to take another quick break, or you want to move right in?
I'm ready. Let's move
You
on.
good, Thomas? All right, let's roll with it. Let me know when you're good to go to get a shut up and restart.
I do.
It. I'm starting to appreciate you more and more every day, kid.
That's frightening.
What did you say?
I said, that's frightening.
We are recording. We're recording, Shane.
We're good?
We're good.
Okay. This is a work session with the Board of Supervisors regarding wind and solar ordinance. We'll turn it over to the table. We get an introduction and who you represent.
Yeah, Zach James, Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission and Moines County Land Use Administrator.
Drew Lassiter, ditto for Southeast Iowa Regional Planning, Moines County Land Use.
So what we've got today, we've got a whole packet of materials, but I'll just kind of go through some of this background a little bit. So back in November, we did hold kind of an initial work session.
You were gonna have printouts for the board?
Oh, yep. You've
Oh,
got a
that's it.
copy right
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Yep.
Same thing we sent you by email, one's red line, one's plain copy.
Yep, so back in November, we did hold a work session with a kind of some first draft copies of the ordinance. Since then, we've done some kind of follow-up review and discussion with some other organizations, and we've got some feedback from some different people, so we want to just briefly thank those who we've kind of talked to, met with, given us some feedback. So we've got Tom's given us a few kind of draft languages on a couple specific items. Mr. Carter gave us some comments as well. Chris Lee, all with the county have given us comments. We've met with a couple different other county representatives, and so if anybody recognizes Charlie Nichols, he's up in Lynn County, and they've been through 3 large solar ordinance installations up there, so he gave us a lot of good feedback and input on their ordinances and some of the things that have gone well and haven't gone well and things to consider, so had some good conversations with him. And then we've had some folks with Bright Future Iowa give us some good feedback as well, and Swati's here that you guys met before the meeting. And then there's another group that, it's a fairly new group, I don't necessarily know a whole lot about them, but Center for Infrastructure and Economic Development. They've actually sent us some materials just in the mail randomly, more about land use type things, but I was up at Southeast Iowa Days and met this gentleman, Rand Fisher, and just talked to him a little bit. And they're doing a lot of work in kind of wind and solar across the state of Iowa. And they just asked if they could have a chance to review and give some feedback. So we did send it to them, and they gave us some good feedback as well. So actually in the stack of things that we gave to you, it's the staff report that I just kind of discussed. And there's actually this packet. It looks like this. This is all the comments that we've got. So this is all those organizations that I just mentioned. Anything that we have in writing, these are the actual comments that we've got.
I didn't give that to them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought you had a reference.
Oh, I thought I saw other, but we can get copies to you. These are the actual comments that we've got. So if you want to see those, and then you have a clean version.
A lot of the red line comments that were addressed in the red line copy, those are from that feedback there, based on and at least in one instance, that was one where it dovetailed pretty well with something that Charlie had said as well at Lynn County.
Yep. So yeah, so then you have copies of ordinances, clean versions that are they the original version that we sent, or are they the updated? The updated version with the change we made, so they're clean. But then we also have a red line version which shows what changed from that draft that we sent you back in November.
So this red line is the change from this one here.
Yeah. Well, no, they're both the same, except the red line one identifies the changes and the plain one does not.
Okay.
So if you remember, these are both, the wind and solar both are structured very similarly. They have all of the same articles, general provisions, which is, again, just some of the background, what's the jurisdiction, what types of things are exempted, how do we enforce things. We have the definition section. Then there's the minimum siting and design standards, which are kind of the meat of what the regulations are. We go through the permitting process. We have things about the construction plans and monitoring, how to mitigate any damages, so when there are construction things going on. And then we talk about the decommissioning, which I think is probably the biggest thing we talked about. And then really the only difference is in the wind one, there's a section on meteorological, meteorological, am I saying that right?
The short one is Met Tower.
There we go. The Met Tower, so that's something different in there, but they're both set up that same way. I guess our thought was today we can just kind of go through each of these and just kind of whittle through each of the sections and see if there's any specific concerns, comments. Maybe we'll highlight a few things, but I don't know, is there one that you'd prefer to start with, or it's more important than the other one, or?
Just start page really one. I would like to go to where.
Yeah, wind or solar?
On decommissioning.
On which one, wind or solar?
Probably applies to
both. They're very similar in either one,
but
I just want to make sure we're looking at the same.
Are you talking about abandonment or the bond?
Bond.
Bond?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know yours doesn't match up with mine very well. Yeah, we want to look at that.
So there's a whole section on decommissioning. Or you have a specific comment though on something, is that what you're?
No, as I looked through this, I saw that you had estimates of what it would cost, and then you were gonna estimate it again every so many years and that sort of thing. Every contract has an element of risk in it. contract specifies who's gonna carry that risk. These things are kind of a special kind of risk because they're really hard to value, because they're heavily subsidized by federal and state governments. So that distorts the value. Anyway, and the decommissioning costs, if it's done right, anything I understand about it, is huge. The installation costs are huge, and the decommissioning costs will probably be more. When you're doing any recycling or anything. Des Moines County taxpayers cannot afford to carry any of those risks. Individual landowners can't afford to carry any of those risks. So I want a surety bond that covers those risks, and I've gone through it here. I can sort of read through it. It isn't written like you would have in a contract, but it says Des Moines County will require absolute protection from any risk of financial exposure due to incompletion of the project, operation, lack of ongoing maintenance, or abandonment as defined earlier. The developer will provide and pay for a surety bond guaranteeing payment of all costs incurred in the construction, operation, or decommissioning of any wind solar installation, regardless of whether that cost is specified in this ordinance. Among the expenses covered by the bond would be dismantling of the complete installation, above and below ground level, safely recycling the materials, no dumping in the county landfill, remediation of soil and water contamination, and returning the land to its condition prior to the installation. The bond will cover the cost of any damage to the county road system during installation, operation, maintenance, repair, modification, or decommissioning. The bond will also cover all costs of any legal actions related to the installation, operation, maintenance, repair, modification, and decommissioning of the project, including defense and settlement costs. Additionally, the bond must provide liability insurance coverage for the county in the event the project's owner or operator's liability insurance coverage lapses for any reason. It doesn't matter if the project is sold to another party, retired at the end of its useful lifespan, ceases operations, is abandoned, or damaged by weather, vandalism, accident, neglect, etc. We will require absolute assurance that those installations will be completely removed and that no cost will fall on Des Moines County. Due to the potentially huge and uncertain nature of the costs involved, Des Moines County will not accept any surety bonds with a cap on potential damages or costs. The bond will remain in effect until the land is returned to its pre-development condition and the county is satisfied that all contamination has been identified and remediated. If somebody else doesn't accept that risk, Des Moines County has to accept that risk. And that would be only, we're talking about our county, we're talking about our tax base. We can't afford to accept any risk like that. And I know you can get a contract from the guy that puts in the installation and said, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and that's all well and good. But people go out of business, intentionally or accidentally, or bankrupt. And all that's out in the open. If you say, okay, we're gonna say it's $100 million. I don't know what one of those would be worth in 20 years. I'm not sure what one of them will cost to, like a solar farm to recycle that stuff. I called around. Nobody can give me a good hard number on that now. But it's gonna cost more to get those out of there than it costs to put them in by the time you recycle them. No landowner can afford that. So I don't want a 1,000-acre junkyard in Des Moines County. Because the taxpayers won't be able to, nobody can afford to fix that. So we want to know on day one, or I want to know on day one, that we have a surety bond from an actual surety company, that we don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
And he changed that we to I, changed it back to we.
Okay. You can't argue with good business.
He said, we don't want to, and then he said, no, I don't want to. I said, change that I back to we don't want to.
Everything else I'm good with, adding what Tom said.
Well, I've got,
Because, well.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just saying, I don't know about everybody that's done a project, and I'm all for it. I just want everything cleaned up after they're done. I want to guarantee that everything's gonna be cleaned up, that there's not gonna be stuff left where there's gonna be leaching and whatnot, or burying of things, because I've heard of stories where people are burying things, and I don't want that happening in Des Moines County. Outside of that, as long as they say, well, hey, we could set it up, and in so many years, if it costs $1 billion, we've got this money sitting where we can clean it up and bring it back to where it was before, I'm all in. I'm all in. But I'm not looking for another way to, for 10 years down the road, where we have to find ways to dispose of things, and for companies. What we had with the steps, you know what I'm saying? I mean, businesses do go, I mean, companies go out of business, and then when they do, we're just kind of stuck. And then it's not us being stuck, it is the taxpayer of Des Moines County. So go ahead, Thomas.
I was a contractor. I almost got stuck twice, because one of them was a huge general contractor, went bankrupt, and it took 3 years, but I finally got my money. And that was with a bond. If it wouldn't have been for the bond, I would have been SOL.
How long did it take you?
3 years.
Wow.
Swati?
Is it okay for me to jump in?
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to say that Clinton County and Lynn County supervisors had similar conversation, because, it's your job to make sure you protect the taxpayers. So I think, Zach, it would be a good idea if you could talk to Clinton County and Jared.
Which, Clinton and what county?
Lynn. Clinton and Lynn. Because they talked about Coggin Solar, that, that was one of the big issues. I think there is like they changed the numbers of the bond, how many by how many dollars, because in the beginning they thought even the number was low. So maybe you should talk to the Clinton County Planning and Zoning Commission.
And that's the one thing you said that I don't want to see a number on it.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody can put a number on it.
I think they have like so many things aside to start. I think that's what.
That might.
Yeah.
But I'm since I just want to see that it's going to be taken care of. I hope it only costs $50. But if it costs $50 billion, I don't care.
Well, we don't have this exact language.
No,
in here,
I understand
but
that.
I think we addressed a lot of that.
Well, you did, but
in here,
you've
if there's
got
something missing-
estimates. You've got estimates in there that there would be an estimate of what it would cost.
Yeah.
That's I am not interested in estimates. I want to know. I want a surety bond that said we will fix it. We will make it. Take it back.
Can you get a surety bond like that?
I don't know if I'll tell you what, it's a risk that they would be asking the county to take. Bond companies are paid to assess risk, price it, and accept it. We are not that. But any risk that's not covered will be covered by Des Moines County. The Des Moines County taxpayers, like I said, the numbers we're talking about, none of those landowners that have their property leased, they won't be able to touch it. They're done.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear back from Lynn County and Clinton County on what they.
Yeah.
It's just there's.
Well, I know we talked to Lynn County because they have similar language on the estimate, but theirs says we changed it at the suggestion of Charlie that the value that they use is the depreciated value. So we changed it to say the full value at the time of the first operation. So
I think what Tom's asking for is pretty clear, and maybe we could work on the language and how it's put on there when we have other, more information in front of us. But I think when we talk about estimates, partially when you get into the backside, and we're talking estimates, because how they're taxed is somewhat based on this total cost estimate, this lifetime cost estimate, which includes by statutes these estimates of the cost for decommissioning and all of that. So that language kind of flows through, and they need that. But I think over and above that, what Tom's saying is, that's all well and good. You just want the surety to be open-ended, so it costs, whatever it costs, it's paid for. Is that fair?
I don't want to see, you're covered, we estimate it's gonna be $100 million, and it turns out it's 110 million, or 200 million, or who knows what. That's, I'm not comfortable with any number rather than just a total.
Yeah, because the process we outline says they provide an estimate for cleanup, and then at their own expense, we get a third-party review of that estimate.
That makes me even less comfortable with it just coming up.
That's not an actual cost.
And then the financial security is the full cost of decommissioning.
But that is my concern. Those risks exist. I don't think anybody can say those risks don't exist. I'm just saying we cannot ask the taxpayers of Des Moines County to accept those risks.
Tom's right, and I don't want it to be, I don't want to be out of this seat and push that risk or those payments on people, 5-10 years down the road. I don't want to be a part of that. So, yeah, I'd like to see that part that Tom has. I'd like that to be the closer, written in blood print.
We'll certainly reach out to those other counties and get some guidance on how if they had similar concerns, because it's, we've just been following and reviewing what some other, what the standard practices are, and if that's, so just want to make sure what we have here is actually feasible to enforce that, and we'll definitely look into that further, but.
And I don't see how it's not feasible. We can all agree, those all are risks. You can say they're big risks and little risks, minimum risks, huge risks, whatever they are, but they are all risks.
I think the feasibility doesn't matter to the county. The contractor makes it feasible, then so be it. As far as the county is concerned, there'll be no worry about whether it's feasible for the landowner or the county. It'll be this much or it won't be at all.
Yeah, that's, I'm just saying it's not gonna, I don't want it to fall on Des Moines County, and that's, the taxpayers would be the default option if those costs. And, I think we talked about it when we had a meeting some months ago. I'd mentioned at that time I was checking on, they had, don't remember exact numbers, the solar farm they put in Louisa County. Well, just the recycling of those panels was gonna be like $20,000 an acre. You had to stack them all up and deliver them, and that doesn't begin to clear out all that structure that they've got out there and restoring that land to the way it was. No landowner can afford to do that.
And that's just to be clear too, that stuff's in here about returning it back to its.
Oh,
I'm just pointing out, not getting out of the cost side of it, but those things are in here.
I looked at that and I went through it and I noticed that, but the deal is the number.
Do you think?
Estimate. Yeah.
So because we have the line in here about the amount of financial security shall be the full cost of decommissioning as based on the estimate. So let's say we do have that changed and basically it's an surety bond with no limit on it. Do you still think there's value in having these estimates provided to us?
I think when we look, I think it's gonna be required to figure out how they're taxed.
But that would have nothing to do with the
writing on that paperwork though for estimates. Would we still need to include that on there?
That's what I'm saying, is should we still have them submit a decommissioning plan that says, here's what our estimate is to get rid of it?
That
even if the bond covers.
As long as we have that surety bond. But I have no idea. I would lean on the attorneys to say whether it should should cover that. And I think you can, as Carberry Mike was here and he was saying, you know, you could tax them on the land value or productive value.
So there was really two ways. One was based on these initial estimates of total lifespan cost. Or one was you could do it on like kilowatt use produced. And so when you do that, so say if there's power plants, that's how they tax other power plants. And then that all goes to the Department of Revenue actually handles that. It's not like our local office. But, so it's not, so Matt's not even really equipped to do that.
No, I think land is the way for solar. I would say the land is the way to go.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, because the farmers are going to lease the land, so we cannot look at it as a power plant, and that's what supervisor is saying.
Well, there's two, but those are the two options that new legislation gives us is, so, and once we make a choice and the choice is made, and it takes, you know, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it takes a lot to change it, because they had some counties that were trying to change it back and forth. So say like up in, you know, those northern tier counties, they have windmills. Well, they'll run them for a few years and they'll stop them, and then they'll run them again depending on the price of energy or whatever, but they're not always in use. So I don't know what counties, but I imagine those, if they were doing kilowatt hour, I'm sure they would want to go back and forth because they're not always using them. They might not use them for a couple of years, then the price of energy will go up, and they'll be like, okay, and they'll plug them back in. I don't know all the, I'm sure it's much more technical than that, but
Well, then,
they'll
if
start
you're
using
gonna do
it.
that, you'd have to tax them on the potential that it would make, not on what it actually made then. Because if they shut them off for, like this solar says 180 days, you know, they change that to 360 now. So you'd be losing money if it was what they was producing. But theoretically, they could produce all year round, which they shut down. This way, you would still get that tax money.
Right, if you go with the total kind of, the other way is this total lifespan valuation, and that's where they require those estimates, and that's kind of how they come up with the actual valuation of that property. There's a formula, and then it's taxed like 35% first year, 30% second year, 30, all the way down to 5% over the course, and then it's just that low number going forward.
There's a case in Michigan right now, published December 2022, that there's a wind company up there that's trying to claw back the taxes after the number of the schools up there in a certain area got dependent on it. They're in court now.
Yeah.
And, they changed how they assess things, the state did. So the wind company wants its money back. And
For past taxes paid?
over tax, I'll send you a link to it.
Interesting.
But anyway, so of course the entities that got used to that tax, that revenue stream, they're unhappy. And it's gonna hurt some of them.
So I think, Jared, do we have, I'm asking you a question, is it, the estimates are every 10 years, right?
That's how we structured it, yes.
Maybe if we could go lower, would that help with the estimates instead of every 3 years?
No, and I appreciate that. I just want part of the cost of contract is the acceptance, is the cost of the risk.
Okay.
So whatever contract it would be, I want that risk priced in at the beginning.
Okay.
So it isn't addressed later. So if part of the cost of whatever an installation is going to be cleaning it up or whatever you need to do, I want that included. That's why I said I want a
That's-
surety bond, and like I said, it's a risk somebody has to take.
Yeah.
Whether it's a big risk or a small risk. That would price it in, and it sounds like the board want that covered, we want that covered from day one, said, we know that the cost of removing this, or repairing this, or paying for any liability on this is off the table. It's taken care of until the day that the last shovel of earth is put back where it was, and it's restored to the way it was.
I understand, I just am asking
Oh,
questions.
no, that's fine, I'm
Because
just.
I'm not representing any company, so I was just trying to figure it out.
That's fine.
I think we can look at, and we can talk to, because we have not met with the attorney's office yet. We did send it over there, but we haven't, I think we talked about getting together, but we hadn't gotten together yet, but.
Yeah, we talked at the beginning, I think you've got everything we talked about in the beginning in there. I'm very pleased, but I think what Tom's asking for now is different. We can work on that. I think we just put it on, I don't know if we change.
I think we just look at,
A lot, I think.
depends on if you're on if you're in the winter cellars, page 18 or page 20, but under 2A, it says the amount of financial security shall encompass the full cost of decommissioning is determined through the process outlined in section C of this article. The other one says in section B4. I don't know if they're supposed to be the same, but either way, I think we just need to address that, and that's where we can get into, instead of saying the full cost of decommissioning is determined through that process, we can
It also says.
incorporate some of this language about, must provide liability insurance for the county. Where was the absolute protection? There's something in here basically about basically the full cost, whatever that cost is,
Yeah.
essentially.
Well, it already says shall set an amount to be held in a bond, escrow, or other acceptable
Yeah.
form. So basically just make that less vague and more specific to what you were getting at in terms of surety.
You can't hold an unlimited amount in escrow.
Right.
It would have to be a
Right.
bond.
Okay.
Yep. So we can talk to, we'll see if we can figure out a way to.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So that would still have the process of coming up with that estimate initially.
I think it's
just
still
so that it's
beneficial, just so that
transparent
there's
and
something
it's out
on
there.
record of what
Yeah.
they think it's gonna cost.
Right.
That's my
Well, and
opinion,
that might be as long as it doesn't affect
but we'll just
what
make
the
it.
county needs.
Yep.
Yeah.
The county
That's fair.
needs,
I
that
think
would,
we can make that.
that would be my nightmare is we'll be gone, but 20 years from now, there's a 1,000-acre junkyard out there.
You'll still be here.
What?
You'll still be in that chair.
This one or that
Or
one.
that-
Yeah,
it might be that one or this
He'll
one.
still be here. I'll be gone. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, if I'm here in 20 years, I'm gonna jump up and thank the good Lord, hallelujah.
Did you have other comments, questions, or
On that?
concerns?
One
or-
question, this is off the record, about this.
Is it off the record? I think it's
On the
record.
windmill, how are they gonna get that cement out of the ground that they put in the ground?
That'd be a good question for Brian.
I don't know.
I mean, my son hauled cement dust, powder, over to Illinois, and semi-loads of it. And they took it right off there, and they just dumped that, blow it in a big old hole. And then they pump water down in there, and that's how they do it. And he says, Dad, I don't think they'll ever get that cement out of that ground if they ever take the windmills down.
I would guess they don't have the intention of it, would be my bet.
The roads, they tore the roads up, had ruts in the roads.
That's a big factor of the windmill side of it is roads.
Yeah.
There are a lot of counties to learn from. We talked a little bit early, and we would, before that becomes reality, we would spend a lot more time to figure out how we handle the roads, because obviously solar has a lot of traffic and a lot of stuff coming in, but nothing to the effect of when you start talking about the cranes and the equipment they bring in on solar. The stories of, it's not just damage to the road, it's the fact that the gravel roads won't fit, their equipment, they wanna come in and fill ditches and widen intersections and take the crown out of the road because they can't handle the crown with the size of stuff they're bringing in, and and then sometimes they're crossing, even if you keep them off of your paved roads, they've got to cross, so you're talking about some paved issues as far as it just obliterating, basically, because of the loading you're talking about, so you're really looking, potentially, from everything I've heard from other windmill locations, is the potential of some fully reconstructed roadways that were basically deconstructed to allow access, essentially, and would then have to be reconstructed, and not just the roadway itself, but probably the ditches reshaped, and that would all need to be addressed in upfront agreement that would be done, so. And it has been, I mean, this is not something brand new, so I'm sure going to X amount of counties, we can find the newest and greatest and kind of build upon that, but it is something that'll have to be addressed for both of them, but probably wind causes me a little bit more concern than solar on the road side of it.
Go ahead, Jim.
I was gonna say, if we can in here, I'd like to, you know, if we go through with this here solar thing, I would like to have them to, and I know it's hard to do, but your preference to the local contractors.
That's what that's what Lynn County did.
And, you know, we've got some good contractors in southeast Iowa here, in Moines County, Wise and Henry and Lee around here.
That came up specifically in relation to Wayzata County at a previous discussion about this, and we had looked into that, but
I don't remember what we discussed about it now, and I don't know that we had put anything in here about it.
No.
Yeah.
We had that discussion when they was up here, you know, Ryan was up here, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name.
Was that Mike Carberry when he was here?
Ryan Drew.
Ryan Drew, and then I think there was electrician's business agent, a couple.
Oh, yeah, that was the
Jacob
same
Nye and
meeting,
me.
right?
What's that?
Jacob Nye and me.
Yeah.
The electrician's local 13.
You're the electrician's business agent?
But membership development coordinator.
Okay.
Just a step under.
Yeah, I think Lynn County did that, that really helps.
Yes, absolutely, and I don't know if we can agree 100% next week.
Yeah, because I've never seen another ordinance.
I think we talked about it, and I mean, I guess we could put something in the ordinance, I just don't know that that's kind of a common thing that you say,
I
hey,
sort of
you gotta
remember,
use
I sort of
local
remember,
contractors.
maybe you can, is it, was it Ryan or somebody, as I recall, said, you know, that when the board encouraging, you know, said, we want you to use local labor. I don't know that they put it in the contract, but I think they might have just encouraged them that. I don't remember, but I do remember talking about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he was on it.
I would, you know, I'd like to.
We can look at Lynn County, I don't remember seeing anything in
Yeah,
their ordinance,
but the supervisor said that
Yes,
openly.
okay.
And that's what, remember when we talked, I told, discussed that it's the supervisors who asked for it, so Lynn County supervisors asked for it. Supervisor Kerry just said that it really, when supervisors say it, I think it makes a big difference. I think it's a good idea. In my view, maybe just.
So I think that's more of a, we encourage people
Well, I
through
think
the process, whether it's you guys or us or both.
If they want it, you can put it in ordinance, because it's their decision that makes a big difference.
We could, actually in the contract, we could ask somebody before they were here, what are your plans on that?
And I'd be satisfied with that. And usually they do try to do a good job, especially with Ryan and those guys.
You got a specific question, Tom?
I do, on the abandonment paragraph, and just taking in mind what Trent said just a little bit ago. It says that in, well, I don't know which one, I think they're probably the same. This is when,
It should be.
nearly.
Apart from the acronym, CWAC or
Yes.
CEPIS.
Any installation that has not been in operation for a period of, you put in 180 and then change that to 365 consecutive days for any other reason than a natural catastrophic event. Anyway, and I've got here what, I was at 9 months, I split the difference between you. Anyway, and I've got, when it ceases to produce energy on a continuous basis for 9 months, the state in which the wind conversion system or portion thereof ceases to produce energy on a continuous basis for 9 months will be considered abandoned unless the current responsible party or parties with ownership interest in that installation provides substantial evidence updated every 6 months after 9 months of no energy production to the Board of Supervisors of the intent to maintain and reinstate the operation of the facility is responsible for the responsible blah blah blah. Anyway,
We're trying to, because we got some other feedback on that one too, I think, because we had the 180, and then you said 9 months, and then I think we saw several ordinances where it's a year.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of all over the place, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like, I don't know that there's a right time for
Probably
what that should be.
not.
Well, the guidance from the Center for Infrastructure and Development specifically said the timeline for an abandonment determination of 180 days is a short time frame and outside of the standard decommissioning process of other counties.
I guess I'm just trying to match up the language for the rest of it.
I don't think a year is, this is my opinion, I don't think that's crazy.
Anyway, so you've got following the determination of abandonment, the owner operator shall begin within 90 days to either reactivate the use of the structure or begin the process of dismantling and removing it. I have here, we consider it abandoned. I've got with ownership. Unless substantial evidence provided to the Board of Supervisors. I would think it would be easier under yours is sort of back to Trent to start it up and let it run for a little while, and in mine, they've got to convince the Board of Supervisors that they're serious about this. And they have to do that after the first 9 months. They have to do that every 6 months to convince us. So rather than just saying we did start it, mine says they've got to convince us. I kind of get that.
So you want us to change, let me see how we've got it work, because it shall be abandoned by the
Do you want to
administrator.
copy this, Trent, what I wrote?
Yes, please.
I've got it, I'll be able to give
Tom,
him a copy.
I'll run a copy. You guys want copies of it?
Yeah, I'd like a copy of that.
We don't want to make a few
I
copies.
got the one, but I didn't get the.
Both pages, Tom?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, who's gonna invest all this money and then not run this equipment for that amount of time?
Well, if they would change the production,
Yeah.
you
Well, I
get a
think-
production credit for running it, and that's a federal subsidy. If that would go away, then they aren't making the money run it.
Yep.
So I don't know, like I said, those things are valued differently depending on what subsidies are in effect at that time. There's a graph, showing when they're building them or when they're not, when those tax credits are up here, when they build them, when they don't, it follows the laws exactly.
From what I understand, Supervisor, that it's not going to affect so much for solar energy if the tax credits go away. I did some homework as a scientist. It will affect the hydrogen plant. You know, there are lots of, right now, President Biden has put lots of credits for hydrogen, which nobody's talking about here. But the solar and wind energy is kind of considered now an established energy. So those tax credits won't be, there will not be that big a swing if the credits goes away. That's what I have read in some of the papers people have sent to me. So I'll look for it, and when I find it, because I had read those long time ago, so sometimes you think you know where they are and you never find them. So, but when I find it out, I will take your emails, and then I'll send those to you. That's what I'll do.
If the local, state, or federal government did it, nothing's safe. We always joke that when the Iowa legislature's in, no man's life or property is safe when the Iowa legislature is in session.
They used to say that to me all the time because I was there. But one of the things, I wanted to go back to what Supervisor said about the local work. The Lynn County supervisors asked for MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that they will use the local. Maybe that's the way to go for local. And instead of using word encouraging, I think word encouraging is, it's not binding in my, lawyer might say that also. If you say there has to be a memorandum of understanding, that when, say, a company XYZ and they come to you, you say that we want to see memorandum of understanding for using local, employment will be local workers.
Okay.
So somebody like Wright and Drew, and they can say, yes, we'll do that, right?
And I guess I have another way to look at it too, as far as when you're talking about tax incentives and tax credits. Using prevailing wage on the job gets you a tax incentive. Using registered apprenticeships gets you a tax incentive. The Waplo Solar Farm, I live in Wise County. You don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. There was no registered apprenticeships on that project. They brought in, I think, 7% was local workforce, and the rest was out of state. So, just something to think about.
And they did. I don't think they got the credits, right?
No, I don't believe so. And to this date, that thing still doesn't work right. I drive by it every day, and it's solar panels in every different direction. I can't be working right.
I mean, that's one thing you do. I mean, I went there, and that's one thing you don't want to do. And the same company is building now in Coggan, Lynn County, and the Lynn County supervisors did a great job. The Clinton County supervisors have done a great job. Exactly what you're doing. I was part of the conversation. I think when you do your homework and what you're doing is the right way to do it. Of course, it's frustrating for us. We'll have to change, and we'll sit down, and our lawyers will help us out, but I think that's the way to do it.
Most of our frustration is imposed on those two gentlemen at that table, and we don't care.
Well said, Thomas. Well said. This guy's get away with words, man.
I see.
Well, feel love.
Yeah, not today.
Anyway,
yeah, let's move on.
But
No, but they have worked, really, I have to tell you, they have worked so hard. I worked with them, and they have tried to make it as perfect as possible. And I really is impressed that there are only small things you are asking them to do. I know but other supervisors had to literally go from on page 1, line 5, on page 2, line 6, and
we're early in the process.
Yeah.
That's the benefit of as more, other communities have more experience with this.
When we give them
more
a hard time,
examples.
it's in a matter of affection. So.
Okay. I know.
Because you had mentioned earlier, like, about how it's considered more of a standard energy source or whatever, but it just shows you that as there's more active guidance and analysis of what other communities have done, it becomes easier for other communities to look at those examples and
But I'll tell you.
instead of
that-
reinventing the wheel.
But I will tell you, Jared, not everybody has done that, what
All
you
right.
and Zach have done. Others have done, but it's
Resources out
really
there.
I'm complimenting both of you for taking time to talk to
Good job,
lots of
Jess.
You're planners.
Anywhere where it says on that abandonment that they provide substantial evidence to the updated every 9 months to the Board of Supervisors, the way I would read that is that the Board of Supervisors would be the people that would determine whether their evidence was substantial or not, rather than just saying if they they started it back up, like Trent said, they, for whatever reason, they started it back up for 3 weeks and then shut it down again and said, well, we're for this or that problem.
So in here,
They
it
would
talks
have
about-
to convince us. I'm just saying, I kind of like that language in mind.
In here, in the first paragraph, well, this is specific to that, I guess I just maybe assume they would need to be more specific, but it says, shall be deemed by the administrator, which would be us. And I would assume all these other things underneath that apply, and I think for the most part, I could see a few things where we need to maybe clarify.
Okay.
I'm on the window, it's on page 20.
20.
Now, where are you at?
I'm on page.
You're.
18.
You're
Maybe I'm on the wrong one.
The page numbers are different
Oh, no,
because of the
sorry, I'm on-
redlining, and
I'm
it
on the
increases the
red
number
line.
of
Oh, okay.
pages.
Yeah, I was on the wrong one.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, no, I was on the wind one, but it's the same wording. So here it talks about being the administrator, but I think what you're saying is a lot of this stuff, you'd rather have it be the board, come to the board of supervisors.
I would like to, and I like the substantial evidence, so that, if they come and said, well, it was unplugged, and we forgot. We'll plug it in, it'll be
Only if
fine.
we're that easy.
Well, you know what I mean, so that then the board would be in a position to say, that is, we're not convinced.
And maybe we need to change this because it's a little different. So if you go to 1A, under there, 1A, says this required time frame for reactivation shall only be extended. I think this might be a little different than how you have it worded in here, but shall only be extended if the owner operator is able to provide sufficient evidence or documentation that the failure to reactivate. Let me see. On the same basis.
Here where you've got now where it's underlined, that was removed, right?
If it's not crossed out, it's added.
If it's in red, if it's in red and underlined, that's new. Yes, that's included.
I want to ask, it says here that they shall removal of everything to a depth of 5 feet below natural grade. So that leaves, I'm sure if you've got that high in the ground, it's deeper than 5 feet.
Yeah, they're basically saying on that you don't have to remove the entire footing. It goes back to what Jim was asking, how do you get rid of all that concrete? They're just burying it. Below 5 feet.
Because they're going through, they're making a lot of rules now for that carbon pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
That about having so much compression because it affects the future productivity of that land. Would that be fair?
Yeah, the compaction dynamic.
Yeah. Anyway, so I guess I'm saying, well, you're gonna have a compaction here. But what, is there a downside, or what's the downside if you go down there 5 feet? If there is concrete there, does that matter? We need to tell them to take out everything?
Well, so my perspective is they put it in and they're looking to yank it out in this scenario. Why not make them take it back out?
They're putting it in fields where concrete doesn't normally go.
I mean, that's kind of where I go. I guess I don't know why. I mean, obviously they're gonna go deeper than 5 foot. You're talking about a tower of a certain hundreds of feet tall, and when you get into the design side of that, their footing's got to be able to sustain all of those forces. I mean, is it going to? Realistically, the biggest problem with 5 foot down from there is if a farmer someday comes along and runs a tile machine through that area. That's probably the most realistic problem for that location is they're going to tear up a tile machine when they latch onto a a 5-foot deep chunk of concrete that isn't gonna move. So I guess if you don't wanna make them remove the entire thing, to me, it makes more sense to go probably 10-foot deep. Because I'm not sure you'll find a tile, you'll find any issues from there on down, other than just knowing that you've got a chunk of concrete left in the bottom.
Then I think we should.
And I think the reality is, you do have big rocks. I mean, yeah, we don't have concrete necessarily that deep, but you do when you're doing, you know, when you go into where fields were and you start doing dirt work, you get 3, 4, 5 feet down, you'll find rocks that are as big as a D8 sometimes.
Yeah, and he's not wrong, but those are naturally occurring.
So
you're, you know,
and it depends on the geology of the area, obviously.
And generally, you don't, again, most, there are tile guys who can go deeper than 10 foot, but if you really look at most tile layouts, unless you get into the area of a terrace, and most likely these would be somewhere that's not in a wet area, like inside of a terrace, that will generally let a farmer in the future tile through there if they need to and something like that. I would say deeper than 5 foot would make sense to me. Or let's say it becomes a house site. Well, again, you get down 10 foot in most basements, that's gonna be right about the floor line of a new basement or something like that. If I think about a minimum depth, I would think you'd want it more like 5 or more like 10 than you would 5.
I think the 5 was, I think we just got that from a couple of ordinances.
Well, no,
I mean, it's just a common.
It was from the guidance from the Center for Infrastructure,
I thought it was from one of the other counties.
And they actually said 3 or 4, so that was the typical. So I think the issue that they were addressing was utility lines underground. So if we're talking about, which often probably for a solar, you probably wouldn't have anything deeper than that, but for wind, I can understand with the footings, if that's a
I say this is an easy conversation because, again, this is a company that's having to tear it out. They were somehow involved, or they're in the linear chain of the group that installed it. You know that as part of this project, this has to be removed to that depth. That's what this county dictated, and to me, yeah, 3 or 4 is kind of concerning. That's not much depth at all. My first comment of taking it all out, I still kind of sort of stand by that because they dumped it all in the ground. But realistically, at least 10 foot to me lets that area function fairly normally. Even if you wanted to build a house there, realistically, if you keep your basement, top of your basement walls out 2 or 3 feet above the ground, which is pretty typical, that's gonna put your floor and your footing drains and everything above something that's 10 foot deep. So it leaves that, I would think, mostly usable for most purposes in the future. I don't know.
Also, wonder if you pour concrete in an area like that, just the process, you know, you end up with little chunks of concrete in all the surrounding area.
It's a lot of concrete to break up, but they're the ones to put them up.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, just when they pour it.
And trust me, the folks building it won't care less about what somebody's gonna do to tear it down, because that'll possibly be at least one bankruptcy and something else later. It's not like, that's not gonna be their process.
When that was initially brought up, the comment they had specifically was that it previously was not quantified, so that was the reason we put something in there, but
We don't want to end up like the people that tore our old county home down.
I'm kind of curious now how deep they do the foundations for one of those turbines. How deep they are for the whole base, the support.
I think I have heard anywhere between 7 to 10.
I mean, it doesn't go any deeper than that, really.
So I think because I think the technology is, but don't hold me to that.
No, that's I just wonder,
what I have heard.
Are they big floating slabs? Or do they have caissons? Do they drill down to support?
That I cannot answer.
I don't have any experience with these. I'm sure that's actually probably fairly easy to find out with the number of solar or wind farms out there that there are. I just don't have experience with this, so I'd be I would be surprised if all it was a 10-foot deep piece of concrete sitting underneath it. I'd be surprised if there wasn't some sort of additional caissons or something to deal with, not only with the vertical loading, but
Yeah.
with the big thought is.
Unbraced length.
Yes,
That
that's
wind
what I'm,
going on it.
keeping
Yeah.
it from falling over.
Yeah. there may
That
be
would put a huge amount of stress on the
This
base.
is just one article, this is from 2012, so it's a long time ago too, but construction of 15 to 20 foot deep concrete foundations to support a 328 foot tower.
Yeah.
Required 30,000 tons of cement.
They're
For one
lightweight
tower?
nowadays.
Yeah.
Yes, they're lightweight nowadays.
Wow.
I said, Todd told me that they just take the whole load out there, you know, and one truck right after the other.
A cubic yard weighs 2 ton, right? I'm pretty close on
We
that 4,000.
estimate concrete at 150 pounds a
Square
cubic foot.
Cubic
Yeah.
foot, yeah. Well, that's 4,000 pounds for a cubic yard.
So, I mean, I can do a little research into that. I mean, just on probably compared to what we're talking about on a small basis, New London's got one sitting over there that I'm sure there's available records for what they use for footing design. So we could find out this. I just don't know.
30,000.
This says 14 to 16 feet in diameter, 25 to 35 feet deep.
I could see
That's
that
this.
being more realistic.
Wow.
I cannot answer.
Wow.
And there's different, it lists different like styles and ways to do
Yeah,
it.
I
So
think
mean,
it's
there's
the
different
style,
ways
I
you
think,
can do it.
yeah. We should, I know Buchanan County is doing something, I will talk to Nexstar and find out what kind of footing they're looking at. In
Yeah,
Buchanan
it won't
County.
be hard to find out. That'll be, I mean, that's gonna be industry standard to some extent.
Yeah.
Obviously, soils have an impact as to what you really need, but there'll be some sort of relative standard.
Well, we can't go much further until we get some of these changes made. We talked to some of the other counties.
I mean, I think we got a pretty good idea
Yeah,
what
it's
you're
pretty
requesting.
specific.
I don't
What-
think it'll be
what-
super.
and I
hard
guess
to
the other thing
address.
is I hear people talking today, talk about noise and shadow,
Send an email.
but quicker.
Yeah.
Is it quicker?
Liquor.
Anyway, so that's where the setbacks come.
And that's, yes.
And I would-
I would say that's not something that we address specifically using those terms, but that's the idea behind the setback requirements.
What page is that on?
The red line copy of of wind, it is page 6. Where it starts talking about setbacks.
You gotta have the light set down. Yeah.
Yeah, the bullet 2. Bullet 2 and 3.
How many acres is that up in Wise County there?
Oh, I wish I knew. Offhand, I don't know offhand.
I think
but-
it's 800 plus.
Yeah, that number does sound
Nuclear
familiar.
company.
800, and I think they've got like 400 panels to the acre.
Yeah.
That's where I came up with the $20,000 for recycling, because I called around and finally, I think it was the Quad City said we can get it done, but they said it would be about $50 a panel somehow.
Aerial photo
So that would be
10
50
years ago.
times 400,
So you're not gonna be able to see it.
$20,000 an acre. And that's
Sight to see.
just recycling the panels and taking them to them. Just looking at this is it's got the, I hadn't looked, it's got the, just one setback. I would think for an occupied dwelling, you'd want it more. If it was my occupied dwelling, I'd want it more.
1,000 feet.
Yeah.
That's a pretty standard, it generally, I think it varies between
That tower.
probably 500 and 1,500.
That tower is what, the tower's about 200 feet?
Well, it depends.
Well,
depends
it's
again.
roughly 200 feet, but then it's another 180, close to 200 feet for that blade length above it.
Right.
So you got 450 feet, whatever it is, you know, that's your basic. The what?
1,000 is standard.
Yeah.
Is it, but, that sounds pretty close. Like I said, that's just 2 tower lengths from somebody's house. I don't know how you hear the shadow flicker and the noise. My grandfather, when I was a little boy, had a windmill they used them to pump water. And anyway, so it was probably about 30 foot tall. And it made noise when you were outside if it was blowing.
Yeah.
And it was, it would have been 100 yards away from the house anyway. So I can't help but think it's something that's 10 times that big.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I drive a school bus.
Yeah.
I was going out by that one on New London one day.
Yeah.
I just turned my flashers on and stop sign out. Shut the bus off, let the flashers run, and you could hear that. You could hear that out on the road, and that says probably how far, what, 300 yards back from the road? Or
Yeah, so it's back their ways.
Yeah, and you could hear that swishing on that.
I just think it should be farther away from occupied buildings. And what about roads?
Well, it has the equal to the height plus 10% for the right-of-way line for a roadway.
Okay.
That's 3C. That's not the surface itself.
And I
it's
see
the
you
right-of-way
crossed
line.
out the IAP.
We actually had a whole discussion about that, because I was actually driving to Omaha, and you could see the shadows on I-80 from a couple of the blades over there. So we were examining that, and just making sure that we got, because it's kind of weird when you see those shadows.
Oh,
It's distracting.
I've seen them, and I would not, and I have sympathy for the people that would live in a house where you would have so much of that, you know.
But those are property rights issue, that usually, I mean, this is not like our carbon pipeline, these are, people are leasing it on their own, so.
No, I'm just saying, but if I live on that land and I'm leasing it to them, I've agreed to that.
Yeah.
But if I've got a neighbor.
Right, because there's
across
the
road,
non-participating here.
Yeah.
Is the house.
across the road, yeah, I would wanna, the neighbor he's not part of that agreement.
Yeah.
And that's,
Well, it's similar to a hog building. They have to be a certain distance away unless they can get people to sign off.
Yeah.
and,
I mean, nobody wants to let somebody just land on top of
no,
unsuspecting.
and and animals are normal, you know, for generations, that's what happened on farms, they raised animals. And people that
Right.
move out there don't like that, but the people that live out there know what hogs and cattle smell like. And what day you clean the barnyard.
Yeah.
I've run a manure spreader. But,
So yeah, I mean, they want, I believe that's also part of where you can locate a hog building is proximity to surrounding structures, so this should have something similar. for
Yeah.
Proximity.
yeah.
You talk about that shadow,
You can, I mean, you should talk to.
fly out of Wapello when it's flying. There's a turkey farm there. And if we fly in that shadow, that plane would hit that turkey farm, they had out there, them birds would go nuts. That shadow would come
Yeah.
over there,
Freaked him out.
freak them out, yeah. Turkey farmer come and asked us when we was taking off if we would not go that way. We had to do what the prevailing wind told us to do.
I guess the question is, do you want us to change that, or
But we are
research
gonna
more,
finish it today,
or-
let.
Well, I guess, do you want us to
bit.
look at more
And
research on it?
Quite honestly, I might drive up, get close to one of those.
Yeah.
And get an idea, and I haven't done that, get a feel for it. I've driven past them that were fairly close to the road, but, well, it's a number, that's not hard to change.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's the pretty standard number that you see across the board,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's been researched or if it's an arbitrary number, I really don't know. It's just,
Well, I'm not sure
that's
how
what
round-
it's common.
It's a round number.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that there was the guidance from that renewable energy group, I think I sent that to you, Tom, where it had a table where it listed a bunch of different figures that they use, and it's generally a range. I think the average is probably around 1,000, but some of those go a little bit higher. So I think we can get a certain amount higher than that, but once you hit a certain threshold, probably 1,500 or more, that's when it gets tricky, where it gets to the point where it's difficult to find locations where you can possibly fit these facilities if you're using a higher threshold, just because it limits the potential, because homes aren't often close, are often further apart from that, so there's some difficulty there. So it's got to kind of find a balance between ensuring that there is available land that
they don't plant those like petunias, they lay them out a little better.
Right, right.
They know where they can or can't go.
Right.
Any other specific things you think might need to address?
I'm good, but Thomas may be still picking up crumbs. Go ahead, Thomas. That kills me. Go ahead, Thomas, take your time.
And I went through this sort of quickly, so this probably isn't a good time to me to just
If you don't
I
have
think
any today, that's fine.
those are some questions, you know, that you can research, and I will have gone through this a little.
I think the main thing is we got a few items on that decommission abandonment, maybe to clean up a little bit. I think we're pretty close, but
and that's my huge concern.
And then we'll go back and look at this setback thing. I had one general question. I'm just kind of curious what you guys think. Like I said, a little bit, it's about the fee structure, but it's more of a process.
Which page?
12.
Which ordinance?
I'm in the wind one.
Okay.
Red line?
Yeah, red line is the wind.
They're pretty similar.
And in a way, this is not even necessarily a question in here, but there's a section on the fee structure, and we cap it at $10,000. It's based on acreage and things like that, but less about the fee. This is more of a process thing. When we talked to Charlie Nichols in Lynn County, he said basically they set their fee structure to cover the cost. What they do is they actually have a third-party engineering company that just like manages the whole process for them. From like when somebody has to submit their permit and all the documents on the road plans and the decommissioning plans and all those things. Basically, they make sure that the fee structure covers the cost to hire, and I think they do like an RFP every time. They'll hire a firm that then manages that whole process and make sure that the road plan and the decommissioning plan and everything is to the right standards. Is that something?
They have got a county engineer.
We can do it internally.
Yeah.
I'm sure Brian wants to jump into it, but I guess that was just a general question I have. I don't know. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't be involved in the process.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize.
It was kind of I hadn't really thought of that before, and it was something he brought up, and it was interesting.
I'm sure they all do that.
I don't know about that. I'd like to just kind of lean on the staff that we've got right now and kind of see where we're at. I don't know, but. I was upset about the youth group. We're throwing money at stuff that, you know.
No, I'm not saying to do that when X company comes in for their permit because they're gonna build 800 acres of solar farm. They've got to submit a permit, and we as staff would go find a firm that works with them to do all the requirements that are in the ordinance.
It's not a terrible concept, because when this comes along, it'll be a mess as it is. There'll be people that are for and against it, there'll be hearings, there'll be a lot of stuff going on beyond just the permit side of it. I might reach out to some counties and just ask questions to see how different ones handle different things. Because I do think we were just talking, there's some counties
we'd still be involved in that process.
Well, it'd be our process. It'd be a little bit like we're using Carly Nelson for the public health building. That's kind of how I would envision it. They would kind of help keep things
manage
moving.
the process.
It's not a bad conversation to have. I wouldn't change it yet, but I don't think it's bad. And I would also say that anything review-wise, obviously, that regional planning would do with something like this. I mean, there's no way the county wants to be eating costs. And it would be above and beyond anything you could expect as ordinary in their duties. So whether it's involving bringing somebody in or whether it's some additional fee from regional planning, either way, the fee should reflect the cost that the county would incur to review and ultimately possibly approve a permit, whatever that might be.
That's ultimately what I'm getting, is that's the process you would be interested in. I just wanna make sure that we make sure the fee that they pay is enough to cover that third
Yeah.
party to come in.
That's probably,
and do
that's
something.
probably a good idea. And while they're, just quickly, when they got damage to county roadways or something, as I glanced through that, I would think that they'd want to schedule that and do that, maybe not at the direction of the county engineer, but the county does, said this is acceptable for this replacement, and when to schedule that. In other words, so they don't say, here's a road.
I think it's been a while. I mean, these have been very hot topics, but it's been a while since I've been in the middle of a particularly active one or have heard county engineers talk about active ones, but that has been one of the topics in the past, was making sure, as these came along and counties learned from previous examples, making sure that they understand that when the county engineer or something like that comes up, that they have to react. They have to, if there's an expense that has to be dealt with, there's no lag, there's no waiting. Whether it's an expense, it gets dealt with, whether they halt until a road can be brought up so that people can still use it, whatever it is, timeliness in response, whether it be payment or whether it be action. I think there's been situations where they let the contractors flatten out the roads, do all that sort of stuff, and then the reconstruction was done under contract by the county. There's different examples. I would need to research all of that and see if there's something that fits a policy or whether we just need something broad that says there will have to be, we already say that there'll be a road agreement or whatever we called it in there, and obviously that would be that would be a required part of the process before they're gonna get an approved permit. And we're gonna say within 24 hours of notice of a problem, you're gonna have to respond or whatever it is. All that would need to be spelled out. It wouldn't just be left up to a whim. I would definitely, because that's the access for all those residents, the farmers, all that sort of stuff, because they're not gonna care what time of year it is. I mean, you have to remember, the people applying for this permit are not the contractor coming in to build it. They're gonna go bid it out, and then the contractor's gonna show up. And they're just gonna go. It's a little bit like a utility contractor. They don't care if the road's soft. They don't care if it's winter or summer or if it's harvest or if there's combines trying to get, they don't care about any of that. That'll be up to the county to make sure the language is there because we do care. It's our job on behalf of the taxpayer to care.
And that's why I like it being in our hands. I know it's a lot more work, but
Well, I think all that remains in our hands. I think, if I understood Zach right, he's just talking about a third party to help facilitate and make sure everything's getting looked at in the right direction. I don't think anybody we should have come in and just handle it and that we don't have any hands in it, because that's not the way it should be, so. But,
That keeps the local control.
yeah, the local control side of it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, I think we've got a couple things specifically to look at, just to clear up a few things on the abandonment and the decommissioning. We'll look a little bit at the setback distance again. And then, if you wanna look at that process, I might call Charlie again and ask him about that, cause it was a while ago when we talked about it, but just that third party and how that works and how they do that.
I'll try to track down some counties that have these and just talk to the engineers. It'll take me a little bit, but I'll see. The road agreement doesn't concern me because they don't get a permit if they don't do a road agreement with us. So to me, that's not part of this, that's part of getting a permit, and if it stalls because they don't wanna comply with our stipulations, then it stalls, because we'll do what's best for the county. So, but most of these places I have to imagine, well, I guess I shouldn't assume that, but you would think that that'd be something they'd come looking and asking about ahead of time to see what they're, a little bit like asking about bonds and stuff like that, but.
James?
The thing I'm concerned about is what Tom's concerned about, is one open spot. I don't know if they'll be able to get it.
I don't know if you can, but.
But if they can't get it, then they can't get wind and solar.
If you don't get that, then the county has to assume the risk.
And
I'm not voting ever in favor of that happening.
nope,
You won't?
I won't vote in that favor either.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. That makes sense the way you say that. I mean, if we cap it, even if we say 100 million, like you said, if it comes in at 200 million, I mean, that, you know, essentially you have this cost to possibly is infinite, because you never know what it's gonna be 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Even if it was 100, even if it was 101 million, that's $1 million that we're taking away from county citizens that we should have never had to do.
50 years ago, I was buying gas for 22 cents a gallon.
Right.
Now it's $3.19, and that's cheap.
Heck, last year was $6, right? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I got you.
Anyways, the guy won, he won groceries, or his wife won groceries or gas, I can't remember which, for the rest of their life or whatever. Well, it really wasn't. It was,
This is how many groceries you're gonna be able to eat for the rest of your life. You get $20 a week for that.
as groceries go up, you know what I'm saying, there was a cap. It was the groceries or gas, but as the price went up, it capped itself. So, I mean, it wasn't, you know, I mean, it's lifetime that they get some, but they're not filling up the tanks the way that they were in the past, because it wasn't written down right, so let's make sure we got everything written down.
Well, we can do some other work, and then I don't know what you wanna do next steps if we come back again and.
But tell us
highlight what
when you've
changed
got,
or-
maybe you want to just send it out to us, we think we can look at it.
Yeah,
Like,
that-
he says on
yeah.
it, or said, you know, we
Okay.
talked to such and such county and they recommended this or.
Okay.
Or,
Alright.
And,
Sounds good. I think we're fairly close.
Thank you all for coming.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
No doubt.
Very
It's been a-
Thank
interesting
you.
conversation. Thank you.
appreciate that.
Took a while, but thank you.
Were you the
Make sure you
bodyguard?
drive safe. Yes, yes.
You were the
No, we're just going to Des Moines for.
The driver.
Yes.
Say the driver.
I'm the driver.